Hello, recappers. Today's movie starts with a lovely house surrounded by trees and greenery. Inside lives a happy family, Ella, her parents, and their servants. Trouble starts when Ella's mother becomes sick. Before she dies, she tells Ella to always be kind and brave. Life grows hard for Ella and her father, but they try to move on. After her mother's death, Ella becomes very close to her father, who cares for her with love. Time passes, and Ella grows into a young woman. But once again, life changes. One night, her father returns home with a new wife, Lady Tremaine, a widow with two daughters, Anastasia and Drizella. Ella is upset by the arrival of her new stepmother and stepsisters. She had not prepared for this situation, nor had she ever expected it, as her father had never mentioned it to her. However, remembering her mother's advice and wanting to make her father happy, Ella accepts them and welcomes them wholeheartedly. Lady Tremaine quickly takes control of everything. She throws a welcome party for herself, inviting her friends. They laugh, play cards, eat, and drink to their hearts' content. But no one cares about Ella or wants her to join them. Feeling uncomfortable and out of place, Ella leaves and spends time with her animal friends. But her emotions overwhelm her, and she runs to her father, who is working in his study. That night, her father tells her about his business trip and that he will be leaving the next day. Ella begins to cry, and they share an emotional moment. Lady Tremaine sees the strong bond between Ella and her father, which makes her jealous. She feels insecure about herself and her daughters. To her, Ella is an obstacle to her daughters' future. Lady Tremaine believes she is entitled to her husband's time, love, affection, and money. In her heart, she decides to take everything away from Ella. The next morning, Ella's father leaves suddenly. From that moment on, Lady Tremaine changes her behavior toward Ella and becomes cruel. She demands that Ella leave her room and move to the attic, claiming that her daughters deserve her space. This is very painful for Ella, as all her memories and belongings are in that room, which her parents had lovingly decorated for her. With no one to defend her, she sadly moves to the attic. Yet people like Ella are rare. They know how to stay positive and calm in every situation. People like this are rewarded by God for their patience. Ella adjusts to life in the attic, living happily with her little animal friends. She convinces herself it is better because she doesn't have to deal with her stepmother and stepsisters all the time. But she is wrong. Her stepmother and stepsisters begin to complain and force her to do all the household chores. Though they sometimes praise her, they treat her as a servant. Life grows difficult for Ella, but she still hopes everything will return to normal when her father comes home. Instead, the opposite happens. One day, a servant returns from the trip in tears. He tells Ella that her father has died after falling gravely ill upon his return. The news shocks her. She can hardly believe her ears. Her life feels as though it is ended. Darkness surrounds her, and all that remains is her loneliness and sadness. Lady Tremaine grows harsher. She decides there is no need to pay servants when Ella can do all the work, so she dismisses them. Ella is heartbroken, as she was deeply attached to them too. Now, all the household responsibilities rest on her shoulders. She cooks, cleans, and washes, yet is only given leftovers to eat. Food she shares with her animal friends. When winter comes, her suffering worsens. The attic is unbearably cold, so Ella sleeps on the kitchen floor near the fire. As a result, her once beautiful face begins to show signs of burns. Her stepfamily mocks her, calling her Cinderella. In this context, Cinderella becomes the title of the film. Feeling desperate, Ella While wandering, she sees a stag being hunted by the prince and his men. She shouts at the stag to run. At the same moment, her horse becomes uncontrollable, and she nearly falls, but the prince comes to her rescue. Pretending to be a servant of the palace, he chats and plays with her, and they spend quality time together. Soon after, Ella departs without revealing her identity. The next day, the king falls gravely ill. Summoning his son, he tells the prince that he must marry immediately, as it is his dying wish to see him crowned king. The king orders him to choose a bride at the royal ball. The prince agrees, but insists that all citizens, including common girls, must be invited. He intended to find Ella and marry her because he had fallen in love with her. The king agreed to the prince's request. The next day, the prince's men announced in the marketplace that all citizens, rich and poor, were invited to the royal ball. The common people were surprised by the news. Ella was there too. She returned home and joyfully told Lady Tremaine about the invitation. She hoped that she might meet Kit there, since she believed he was a palace servant. Unfortunately, Lady Tremaine ignored Ella and ran toward her daughters with excitement. She dreamed that if a prince married one of her daughters, their lives would change forever and she could rule the palace. At the palace, the prince keeps thinking about Ella. His captain sees he is distracted, but the prince also worries about his sick father. At Ella's house, Lady Tremaine buys fancy dresses for her daughters, but not for Ella. She even teaches them how to dance for the ball. Ella, wanting to see Kit again, fixes her mother's old dress to wear. When night comes, Lady Tremaine and her daughters dress up and prepare to leave. Ella appears in her mother's pink dress, but they mock her and tear it apart, leaving her heartbroken. She runs to the garden in tears, where she meets an old woman. After Ella shows her kindness, the woman reveals herself as a fairy godmother. The fairy godmother uses magic. A pumpkin becomes a carriage, mice turn into horses, and Ella's ruined dress changes into a beautiful blue gown. She also gives Ella glass slippers and warns her to return before midnight, or the magic will vanish. At the ball, many princesses arrive, but the prince waits only for Ella. When she enters, everyone stares in awe. The prince is overjoyed to see her. Ella is shocked to learn that Kit, whom she thought was a servant, is actually the prince. Her name, the clock strikes midnight. She runs away, and the magic disappears. In her hurry, she drops one glass slipper but hides the other. The king grows weaker and allows the prince to marry the girl he loves. The prince is happy and sends soldiers to search for the girl whose foot fits the slipper. The soldiers try the shoe on many girls, but it fits no one. Finally, they reach Lady Tremaine's house. She locks Ella in the attic and makes her daughter try the shoe, but it doesn't fit. Then Ella sings from the attic window. The prince, disguised as a soldier, hears her and sends his captain to check. After some effort, they find Ella, and the glass slipper fits her perfectly. The prince takes Ella to the palace, and they marry, living happily ever after. And that's how our story ends. What did you think about the ending? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next breakdown.